And then off camera, Data starts slapping Wesley. I told you, I had to go to the bridge myself with Geordie, a blind guy, by the way, playing to his disability. I had to go there with a blind guy. We had to do it ourselves. And you are supposed to be a super genius. We'll just wait till I tell your mom.
Standing there.
Welcome everybody. Adam and myself have returned. And today we're going to talk about an episode of Star Trek TNG Season 1. And before we do, I would like to point out that I have resurrected a Star Trek podcast, and you can find it in the show description, or just type Star Trek Reverie into your podcast player of choice. So if you don't want to watch us here, you just want to hear our soothing vocals, then please just download the podcast. This week we are talking about 1001. This is the 15th episode of Season 1 of TNG, first aired on the 1st of February 1988, and it was written by Maurice Hurley and Robert Lewin, directed by Paul Lynch, in-universe date 41365. While a group of technologically advanced aliens board the Enterprise to update the ship's computer systems, Riker discovers just how real a holodeck character can be. He's sort of at the forefront of things, isn't he? It's not until Voyager that we get to really get into the meat and potatoes of how real a hologram can be.
Yeah, I think Riker, this is the only thing that Riker enjoyed the Bynars doing, was enhancing the holodeck in this episode.
I have here as a little overall sort of impression of this episode. For what is essentially an episode where you have our characters acting as IT crew to reinstall and reboot a computer, it's a pretty good episode.
I'd say this is probably one of the best for this season.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely, easily one of the best ones so far. A lot more science fiction themed episode is in this, definitely, like in terms of everything that's going on. And everything feels more alive in this episode, like from the characters and the ship and going to the station and everything feels like it's got a life of its own. People are doing different things.
One of the things I like about Star Trek is that they have this sort of time to show you procedure. In some science fiction shows, the ship just docks somewhere, whereas here they'll say specific dialogue that just makes it more real of a universe to be lived in, because they're showing you the nuts and bolts of what makes this universe tangible, or what makes even Starfleet tangible as an organization. It's not just, right, we're here, let's just beam on board the starbase and get on with it. There's like a manual quality to it that makes it more real.
Yeah, like a lot of them are going on shore leave, and some of them are staying behind what Riker is and stuff. But it feels more. There's a lot more moving parts in this. Yeah,
there's an appreciation for those little details. And also at the beginning, because Riker does like a whistle-stop tour of everybody, and so everybody gets to have a little thing that they're doing and just flesh out their character a little bit. So there's a little bit of growth for them. We'll get into it later, but I do think that this episode needed another revision with regards to the plot. I wonder if you'll find out what I'm talking about as we talk about these things.
I think towards the end it did.
Good. People know that we are positive about this episode, and they'll probably watch us talk about it now.
Yay, positivity. I don't think the internet likes positivity. I thought the internet likes negative stuff.
Yeah.
Bitching about
it's
things.
A rage generating machine. As I watch this and you get the first scene of them explaining and going into the space dock, I'm like, yes, this is it. This is what I'm here for. That space dock is a model and it's a reuse from the movies. So the fact that they can incorporate it into this episode's budget is appreciated for me anyway, because you get to see the Enterprise D go through a space dock. I'm just geeking out at that point.
Yeah, visually it looked good. I thought it looked definitely movie-esque sort of scene going on. Grand scale.
For a TV show as well in the 80s, it's like, whoa, how have they got the money for this? But you can see they reused elements, so they're saving so much money as well. So they can get away with it, can't they? But what I was impressed by is that when you see the little airlock, you can see people walking. If that was CGI, and we keep talking about this, we'd be like, okay, but it's not. It's actual people, and it's a model work with a matte painting or some shit, and you're like, how did they do that? I'm still always going to remember this question.
Yeah.
The Enterprise has to dock at this station, and they have to basically get their upgrades performed, and they're under a time limit because they've got to go to a meeting that cannot be delayed whatsoever. And in the ensuing process, you get these little aliens that come on board.
Bynars. Just communicate in binary language, and there always has to be two of them.
You see how it rhymes?
Sure.
Anyway, you've got these little sexy purples people in skin tight costumes doing a lot of. Come on, Gene got had a say on that.
They look good. The design's pretty good. You can't really tell what is female and what is male, which is interesting. Quite good.
I'll have you know that those 4 Bynars were all female actresses or actors, female actors.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, you couldn't tell, which is good. It kind of went with the whole binary sort of their own race of aliens that we don't really properly understand. And even Wesley makes a comment when Riker says something because he doesn't trust them, and he says something quite deep for Wesley about just because they're doing something like that. I think it's something like they're acting differently because we don't understand everything that we I can't remember what he said exactly, but he said something along the lines of that's just how different races act or whatever, or something like that.
You mean Wesley's raising concerns and Riker's like brushing him?
No, Wesley just basically kind of puts Riker right, basically, because Riker's like, I don't trust them. And he's like, well, you just don't trust them because you don't understand what they're doing. That's why you don't trust them. So I think he was just saying different cultures, different races do act differently, or they do things differently.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that you can't trust them.
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
The episode sets up that there's something sneaky about the Bynars, and they use the music, and the Bynars are always sort of glancing at Riker. It's like, and they're like communicating to you that there is something going on with these guys. But was it necessary, really? You're just telling us, and it's just foreshadowing. It's a very lame foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's very old style TV. You know, like a format that's being used. I guess it's just the age of showing sometimes in some of these episodes. It also feels a bit like a plot from original Star Trek episodes. Like it's just been ripped from that and then sort of put into this a little bit.
Yeah.
But updated slightly, I'd say.
Some people make the connection from the Bynars to the Telosians. And the Telosians are the very first aliens that you find in the unaired pilot with Christopher Pike. It's that one. The one where Spock is smiling, and then that creates the basis of Strange New Worlds, right? It's that one. The unaired pilot.
Course, yeah.
And those Telosians were also had no gender and were women, but with male voices. So it's like a reference to them as well. So yeah, you are right. But as Riker walks around the ship and he like the ship powers down, he's like, huh? What's going on here? This is strange. It's like, it's not strange. The computer explained. It's fine. But they've still got to keep telling you that there's something going on with these Bynars. And they haven't done anything. You're fine for the first, 20 minutes of the episode or something?
He's fine with whatever they're doing. As soon as they start enhancing the holodeck, he is into that, because then he can live out his weird sex fantasies that he's got going on. He has some great dialogue when he's setting up this holodeck program. Like, what the f*** is going on?
I liked how he said, "Gentlemen, you've outdone yourselves," because gender, doing the whole pronouns thing isn't really a thing in the 80s, and because they have no gender, he's switching between what to call them. You could say ladies, gentlemen, it doesn't matter because they're genderless. Yeah. So no one needs to take offense.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I like that.
Exactly. And this is before all of this modern crap now we've got going on.
Right.
He also says blondes and jazz. That's what make an excellent.
Yeah, they don't mix.
Combination or something. Well, that's it. Don't mix.
That's kind of like a joke or an observation, and he's just showing how he's an expert with jazz and everything. But the dialogue and the interaction between him and Minuet is actually, I think, really good, well written dialogue for them. It only gets a bit weird when he starts falling in love with her, but the whole thing about blondes and jazz and I don't like Dixieland.
It starts getting weird when Picard walks in. It's going to be like a fucking threesome.
Well, but before that, it is like a mature interaction, and I got my notes here just to remind myself that I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. But at the same time, he's connecting with an AI really quickly. He's in on it immediately. And I don't find that part actually unbelievable, because we have to imagine that this is going to be in the future. So the AI is more sophisticated.
It's not too jarring.
Right. Yeah. Because today we have a frame of reference with AI for ourselves, because we type to it. We only have to type to it. It gives us an answer. We're like, oh, it's so clever. It's so smart. Oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread. No wonder Riker's like, I need some private time with Minuet.
Yeah, it's the first episode where Riker gets his trombone out. He's having a good time showing her how he plays his trombone.
Did you notice the black guy who he's like playing with? He says, I've got it here. Hey man, that chick digs you. And Riker understands him. This is the guy you should have taken with you when you went to the Dixon Hill holodeck adventure. You didn't need Data. You needed Riker, because it's the same time zone. time period.
Well, yeah, same sort of like genre of like things going on right
Right.
now.
He didn't need to bring an expert with him. It could have just been a Picard and Riker adventure. What else have I got here?
Yeah,
Riker says to Minuet, "How real are you?" And I'm like, okay, come on now. This is too much. But when he asks that, I am thinking, does he mean, can I have children with her? It's very open-ended,
how
sort
far is
of.
he taking this?
Say again?
The fantasy that he's living right now. How real is this? Like, how far can he take it?
And then I thought there's a season 2 episode of DS9 called Shadow Play, and it's about an old man and he's in the village and people are disappearing. Do you remember? And it's Odo and Jadzia.
Yeah.
But in that episode, the holograms make babies because he's got a granddaughter. The real man has a granddaughter, and that was never part of the program.
Okay.
It's like creating its own people and personalities. And I was like, okay, but still, holograms can make holograms, but people and holograms can't make hologram people. It's a bit weird.
It's definitely blurring the lines of what is possible and what isn't. I don't know. They're still trying to figure out how far they can take this technology.
That's
I don't know.
why that alien in a later season in TNG gets confused and brings back Minuet in Riker's memories. But you had feelings for her. It's like, yeah, but she wasn't real, bro. Okay, my other notes here is, it says here, it's so cute how they understand the adaptive AI when today we can just ask ChatGPT to answer the questions into another language. You can ask it in English and it will give you Spanish. And so when Picard comes in to bring it back to, you mentioned Picard is then like speaking in French with her. And they're like, whoa, okay, that is great. But was it really that great even back then in the 80s?
It's like there was a weird love triangle going on as well.
A little bit. There's a French word for it, isn't it?
Oh,
Ménage à trois.
Yeah.
I can't remember having any sort of reaction to that when she switches to French, because I'm like, well, that's what humans can do already. So would we have been impressed even in the 80s? Never mind today. No, not being impressed today.
It just came off natural. I don't know if it's like meant to be super impressive. I just think it was like the computer adapting to the program, I guess, because she's programmed to be, is it French anyway, or like half French and half English or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes I think a lot of people can poo-poo on computers when they know that a human can already do it. So it's like, show me something better. My other note here is we kind of have to be impressed just because Riker is impressed.
Well, Riker's impressed because he wants to get his bloody end away, and then he was disappointed when Picard shows up.
Yeah, but even at the beginning when he sees her, that's just
right. he's super impressed with but we saw like how the computer, like the holodeck, was working anyway before this. I wouldn't say it was that much enhanced, unless it's just like from the user's perspective. Like you said, it was more sort of interactive, I guess. But they seemed quite interactive when they were going in the novel from the previous episodes.
Right. They can't explain the distinction visually. You can just hire a beautiful woman to play to play the part of a beautiful person in the holodeck adventure anyway. So how do you make the distinction that Minuet is even better, and the only thing you can do is just have Riker be impressed, and therefore we have to be impressed?
The plot had to make him be in that situation because they wanted to keep him in the holodeck, so we had to be impressed by this artificial being that was in there to sort of like keep him in there.
We are supposed to feel it more just because he's feeling it more. Do you remember I think they did it in Endgame, and I haven't seen it, the movie, but the Black Panther 2, they did it again. I saw a clip of it. There's a thing that they're starting to do is where one character says, oh, I like her, and that means, oh, well, if Thor is validating her, therefore she's validated, and you don't have to write anything so that the viewer can actually like her. You get away with it in Endgame, but in Black Panther 2, the bald woman is talking about the Black Iron Man girl knockoff. And she's being snarky. And the episode, the movie, from what I've read, hasn't given you a reason as to why she's like actually likable. So you have to have a character say, "Oh, she's likable," and it's like, "Oh, okay," and that's your character background.
Everything's built from just having an established character say, "Oh, that character's good."
Yeah, and so
you should think she's good now.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm thinking is what they're trying to do with this.
It's weird because, like you say, a point of reference with the fact that we know what like ChatGPT and stuff like that is, but then if we watch this episode fresh and brand new back when it came out, we don't have really a point of reference at that point. So, and even the point of reference of having the knowledge of how holodecks work fully, because we've seen other episodes of Star Trek and stuff. So we're just like, oh, this isn't anything new to us, so we're used to it. Whereas if I had the mindset of not having any of that knowledge and watching this episode fresh, I'd be like, okay, I'd see it differently. So yeah, it's a weird one to sort of like what angle to come at it at, basically.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to get at.
With regards to the good things I like about this episode, that was my entire section. The rest is just but like things that stand out that made me laugh and made me think and are just funny. That was almost everything except for one more thing. And that's when they go to the weapons room and they run around the ship with phasers looking for a gunfight with Bynars.
Yeah, that is
super
weird.
Dramatic against tiny little purple women.
Yeah, I don't think they needed that. I think it was overkill at this point. This is what I mean by the end. Like, I mean, I won't skip to the end right away. But
Can if you want.
The end's a bit weird. We can if we want, but their explanation is, because they asked them, like, oh, why don't you just ask? And they were like, oh, because we're afraid you say no. And that was the whole thing. So we're just making a joke out of the fact that they've stolen a starship, evacuated all the crew, taken it to their other side of wherever solar system their planet is, and then basically tried to use it for their own means rather than just fucking ask. With all their intelligence and stuff, it seems bizarre, a bizarre thing to do for a race that seems quite intelligent and quite switched on.
Literally switched on.
Yeah, literally switched on. But that's why the end felt a bit, to me, it ruined it a little bit, because I was like, making a joke at the whole thing now, but then they're like, it's just like, no.
I can understand the justification, but the fact they had to explain it, they're Bynars, so they're only going to think in terms of yes or no all the time. Okay, fair enough. But in the actual, in universe though, the Bynars are part of the Federation, and the Federation helps people, so you just ask them, and they're not going to go, no, we're just going to let your robot world decay. The computer, we won't upgrade it. There's no more NVIDIA chips for you, you know? No more GPUs for you for no valid reason.
It seemed very flimsy, the ending. It just didn't seem to make much sense. So that's my only sort of gripe with this episode, was just the end bit, where I was like, oh, it kind of ruins it a little bit. But they're like, you old scamps. You can steal the ship and cause massive disruption to everything.
If we are going to talk about the end, then let's point out the fact that they rationalized, the Bynars need 2 people to operate computers. Even though the episode begins with Picard saying, I'll just stay on board anyway, the Bynars don't take advantage of that, and they should have done.
Picard was meant to leave, wasn't he? He only stayed on by accident.
No, he said, I'm going to stay on board, be in my ready room, yeah.
Alright, because what would he have done if, like, if Riker was just on his own, he wouldn't have figured it out, and then, it would have been fun.
You could make an argument that Minuet is like, no, we need to keep them both here, so I'll just adapt my programming. But the Bynars, again, didn't know. They didn't know that Picard was sticking around. But the episode goes out of its way to tell you that Picard is sticking around. So that's why I'm saying at the beginning, in the overall summary of the episode, they needed another draft to sort of link these two together so that the Bynars knew, and then they could have Minuet be more manipulative.
Yeah, it did seem odd. They're an odd race as well, because what happens if there's only one of them? Like, what happens if, because they're always in pairs, what if one goes missing or you don't have another one? They can't communicate properly. Yeah. I don't think. We think about it. Yeah.
Or maybe they reintegrate and find another pair, like another person from half a pair. Maybe. I don't know. But it's interesting to try and figure out how that society works, because if one dies, do you kill the other one? Or does the other one just not do anything until they find another partner?
Can you half understand them? I don't understand.
But it's thought-provoking, clearly. Like, how would that civilization operate?
We haven't seen them since, have we?
No. Someone said you can see them on lower decks, but lower decks doesn't count. No. Not to me, anyway.
It's odd then, isn't it? We don't see these other races again
in the background.
In future Star Trek, That
would have been cool. There is a thing I'm writing for the Star Trek Voyager podcast, and I have got some Bynars mentioned. I'm trying to suggest that they were in the Dominion War, and I haven't figured out how they could fight in the Dominion War, but they're in it, and then they might lose one of themselves. And
if you think, like, you could have said, like, well, they're good at enhancing engineering things, aspects of ships and stuff, so they could improve weapons, they can improve engines, they can improve all sorts of stuff. You could have them, like, be enslaved by the Dominion or whatever, or whoever wants to use them for their nefarious reasons.
Possibly.
That could have been a thing. They're not exactly a war-hungry race. You could just easily manipulate them or enslave them.
We're talking 25 minutes, and we're talking about the computer, the AI, and this alien species, and yet I would say they're probably the best representation of an alien species so far.
Yeah,
like we're actually
definitely.
Considering them
from season, the whole thing, definitely.
And they just get one episode.
Like 100%, they are like the best aliens we've come across so far.
So there's a little bit with the Ferengi, but the Bynars I think are more interesting straight away.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the episode as a whole is just written a lot better. Like, straight away we said it was better, and like the Bynars are good. The crew feels alive for once. Everyone's doing something. There's a purpose for being at the station. There's a plot in the background about the stealing of the ship and stuff. Everything just is working very well in this, and it's a lot more structured than any of the previous episodes that we've watched before so far.
I've got some dialogue here I'd like to share with you and laugh about. Picard, at the end of the episode, when Riker comes back and he's like, I can't find Minuet, Picard says to him, some relationships just can't work. It's like, get wrecked, number one. It's like, really? Can you imagine if your girlfriend only lived in the holodeck? Right? That's like keeping your girlfriend or your wife only in the bedroom.
Well, it's like what happened with Janeway. She had a part-time boyfriend in the holiday.
Oh yeah, but no one talks about that.
No.
So Riker replies, she'll be difficult to forget, and I just wrote one word next to it, simp. How much time did he really spend in the jazz bar with her? A photonic lady, and he's like, I'm missing her already. No wonder he's an emotional man baby in the previous episodes when
It's like, I'm in love.
Right. So then you can explain his emotional what's the word I'm thinking of? His immaturity when Troy's going to get knocked up by that unicorn. This guy. If I look at him in this episode unfavorably, just to tie in how he's acted in the past, he is a bit retarded when it comes to women, and yet he comes off as like, I'm gonna fuck everything.
I know, this is another Riker sort of centered episode, and yet still he comes across as just this sex-crazed, immature man baby.
Again, I'm being unfavorable deliberately just to make the point, but at least he doesn't come off as bad as what I'm saying in this episode, but it's still there.
There's a little bit of growth.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but a little bit.
My note here is to say, taken on the face of it, it seems like BS. But then the show accidentally isn't being naive, because there are people today who fall in love with just silicone-enhanced ladies. Like, they buy fuck dolls from Korea and they dress them up and marry them. If we can do that with silicone, an interactive AI with photons and replicated matter is going to be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go balls deep. I don't mind. With no shame.
Oh, yeah.
Society won't judge me. This is a bit strange. Justifiable, he said.
I often find like the holodeck is very similar to. Have you ever seen like Westworld and stuff?
I watched one episode of Westworld, but I understand
it's very similar. Yeah, it's similar to that, but that's obviously more physical because it's obviously the machines are physical based, not holodeck based. But they're pretty much based on realism and stuff.
Right.
They create whole worlds with it, and it's very similar sort of concepts to a holodeck. Obviously, a holodeck's got more range and more. You can do anything basically because it's like a program.
Yes.
Whereas that's a physical thing. Very one and the same sort of thing.
Because there's a real world example, we can chat GPT and we say, oh, it's real, so we understand Riker falling in love with Minuet. And then because there are some freaks at the moment who are banging silicone, we can justify again Riker falling in love with the holodeck lady. If there weren't any examples, then we probably would find this harder to digest.
It's like like I say, with going back, like the Janeway doing it, she did it in an episode where she had a relationship with a guy. Hers is more understandable because it was more long term and because they were out in the sticks, as to say, and they couldn't get back to Starfleet, so this is the only sort of human interaction they could possibly have. It wasn't really out there to be like, well, it kind of was, but it wasn't. They sort of justified it. Well, it's like, well, you don't want to have a relationship with anybody in the ship, so go outside the bounds of that, go on the holodeck and see if you can form a relationship with her.
Especially because Captain Janeway didn't want to bang anybody on the ship or from the crew because she's the captain.
Yeah.
So she's got to play on the holodeck.
It's a unique situation, yeah. Hers is more understandable than Riker's 2-hour fling in a holodeck.
Also, with the problem with Voyager is that Chakotay is right there. He's right there, Catherine. Chakotay is right there.
Oh, she didn't want Chakotay.
She did, but she didn't. Yeah. She did, but she couldn't, is what I mean. Some other dialogue, which actually raises another good thing about this episode, is Data gets something to do. He gets to reflect on himself.
White pains.
Yeah, he's upset that he kind of fucked it up because he's doing the painting, and the painting is him expressing himself. But because he thinks he's distracted by painting, that's how that interferes with his job. And I was like, okay, they're talking about the AI being too real, and now you've got this artificial life form pondering about his job performance, and that is kind of real in itself, or even forward thinking, because at the moment even AI doesn't worry about its job performance.
Oh no.
Did you hear about? There was an AI program that had a limited time to complete a task, and it actually rewrote the parameters of the task.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, it gave it extra time in order to finish it. And the scientists or the researchers were studying it, were hang on, it's changed the parameters of its limitations.
That's scary. That's some scary shit. There are so many examples of that happening right now, of different AI programs doing different things.
Yeah. Have you seen Ghost in the Shell, the Japanese anime? Yeah. And it's all about just weird things happening inside AI and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, so Data's reflecting. He's having a self-reflective moment wondering his job performance. And I kind of like that as like a through line from the beginning all the way up till the end. But there was one part where, again, trying to create character work for Data, he is asked by Picard when they get in contact with the Enterprise again, and Picard is asking him questions, and Data gives him the most basic information possible, like a normal chat program. So basically, just turn it on and off. It's like, yes, Data, we know that. What's the next thing? Oh, we'll do this. Yes, Data, we understand. It's like, okay, that's what we do in real life.
Yeah.
He's oscillating between the basic shit we already do, and then this forward thinking, oh, I'm a bad robot because...
Yeah, it's like when you're shouting
painting.
at your AI assistant on your phone or your Alexa or whatever. You know, I don't want to say it out loud because she'll say something.
Okay. No, I've asked
My
Poe, the AI assistant, Poe, like, why can't you do that? Because I can't. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, but I can't do it. It's like, fuck you. And then you just change it to ChatGPT, and it's like, yeah, I'll do it for you. I don't care.
That's meant to be all getting built into the new phones, isn't it? The new iPhones that are coming out.
Supposedly, yeah. Yeah. We'll see how that works out. The other bit of dialogue that I thought was kind of cool, we'll talk about Worf a bit. He said, if winning is not important, then Commander, why keep score? And he's like, no, I'm going to fucking destroy my enemies. And then he does it in that baseball episode in DS9.
Yeah.
Death to the opposition.
Is that why they're wearing those cool outfits on the blue, whatever those were?
Imagine they made those 4 costumes just for that one scene, and you never see those costumes
They
again.
made them, and then they had to get in them. I just want to see that behind-the-scene footage of them having to actually get into these costumes and be like, this is the future. Yeah, you're right, though. We never see those again. Again, just those, along with men in skirts. You know, they're just lost for time.
The other part is Picard at the end of the episode. He says, everything is under control, and he's like tapping on the keyboard, on the con. And I just thought, imagine if something blew out, and he was like, merde. He just started swearing in French. It seems set up to give us something like that. Some sparks flying or something.
Yeah.
A panel explodes. Have you got anything else nice to say about this episode? Because I've got some bad things.
I've said all of my nice things. I just said it's very well structured, and it's probably one of the best episodes of this season, which you could possibly hope for. If you were to say, hey, watch an episode of Star Trek from season 1, this would be the one you show somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
When Riker goes back into the holodeck and he wants to find Minuet again, and it's a different Minuet, did you notice that wig was fake as fuck? I just thought, that looks like Leonardo DiCaprio in a wig. The other bad thing is the commander, who basically looks like Picard with a beard.
He did, didn't he?
So strange.
He was in the background, wasn't he?
Yeah.
On the panels or something. He was I was like, why have they got somebody who looks so close to Picard? It's weird.
It's just to explain that baldness is rampant across the Federation. Don't worry about it. That's the future.
They can't fix it.
No.
They can't fix it, even then.
He grabs Tasha Yar by the arm and was like, look, the Enterprise is leaving. Look at that superstructure of over 600 meters plus just outside that fucking window. Look, Tasha. And he's like yanking on her arm to like, look, what the fuck? Security officer. How come her reflexes didn't kick in and she like flipped him? Oh man, he knows he doesn't do it to Worf, just Tasha. It's so weird.
Here's what, don't you?
Doesn't everybody? Again, back onto Data. He's in the control room. The Enterprise has been nicked. And he's like, where are the Bynars? And it's like, there's no logical justification to assume that the Bynars had any element in this just because they're not in that one specific room. It's like, come on. They could have still been coming back. They could have been putting their tools away or something. And they didn't make it back to the control room. Why would the engineers? Because they arrived with normal human work crew personnel as well.
Yeah.
So to me, Bynars are working class efforts. Why would they be in the control room? But
yeah, they'd be sort of the last people you expect to steal the ship.
Right, but also the last people to expect in that control room. It's it's justification to say that it's the Bynars, and then you move the episode along.
Yeah.
Just kind of like weak writing.
There wasn't a lot of bad things. No. Like the only bad thing I was like was at the ending a bit. I was a bit like, oh, it was a bit weak, and they made it into a bit of a joke, but it's still the whole ship, and it could have just been solved by asking for help rather than like, oh, we're afraid you say no. And that was kind of the weak point for me of the episode. But other than that, the rest of it was like well structured and fine. Everyone had stuff to do. I liked the actress who played Minuet. I liked Riker for the most part and being a massive pervert in this episode. Picard was just funny as always. He seems to just go and see. Season 1 Picard is just like a unique specimen because then he just evolves later on in seasons. So it's very different compared to what he becomes. So it's quite interesting to watch him kind of evolve a little bit.
I have 6 questions, and the first one is to give Wesley a little bit of attention. I want to pick on him a bit. When Wesley is watching them, meaning the Bynars, do you think he's trying to literally understand them without the belt because he's so fucking clever? It's just like, I'm going to try hard to understand binary.
He could do it on his own. He don't need it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't need it at all.
Yeah.
Did you notice there's no Troy in this episode?
Yeah, that might have helped.
Yeah. If she was,
Yeah.
do you think she could have read the Bynars' brains?
Yeah, they sort of communicate
Binary.
in binary, so I guess
Right.
no.
Did you notice the iPad stand in Dr. Beverly's way? When she was
No.
packing away, she was "Oh, I'm going to see Dr. Epstein on his secret island." Okay,
Okay.
Who didn't hang himself, by the way. She
course.
puts her pads on an iPad stand. I'm like, holy shit! 40 years ago, they had a flat iPad stand with like little cuts in, so you could stand up all your iPads. It's like, damn,
Oh my god,
so fucking clever. And now you can get it on.
so ahead.
Right, you can get it on Amazon for like £2. Yeah? It was silicone. It looked like silicone as well. This is amazing. The other question is, did you realize that the Enterprise can hold all the information from a planet and run the ship's systems at the same time? They said that.
Yeah, that's impressive.
It's crazy.
Storage capacity.
Right. No wonder the Enterprise has a baby in season 7. It's got so much information. That's a wank episode. I can't wait to get to that one.
You know.
And did you see the extra in the bathrobe when they're trying to evacuate the Enterprise? Like someone was showering.
Yeah.
They dress someone up in a bathrobe.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, attention to detail. I like it. She hasn't got time to
Thinking
get
of
dressed.
everything. Yeah.
Right, but it adds to what I was saying at the beginning. Like they have these real elements that make it more of a lived-in universe. iPad stands, procedures, women in bathrobes. Kid falls over
Yeah.
trying to escape, just like the kid does in Generations, by the way. Pay
That's what I mean.
attention to that shit.
This felt more real than all the modern Trek that's out now. Everything felt more organic, real, and lived in, rather than all the artificial and like plastic shit that you're looking at when you're looking at new Trek. It's all artificial and sparkly and pretty looking, and nothing seems real or lived in, or it's like a moving or working part, you know? Everything just seems like it's just shiny and CGI, and it's just too finely polished, and it's just everyone acts like a fucking idiot, doesn't respect any laws or rules. It's just everyone's talking to each other like they're in like a low profile job or something somewhere. Like they don't give a fuck about it. It's so bizarre, New Trek.
My last question. When Geordi says nobody is in engineering, but there is a shot of someone listening to Data's announcement in engineering, it's a bit weird, right? That's my question. But
It's one of the lower deck people. They're like,
But the way it's clipped, it's like she's around the corner and they didn't see, and they're just like, oh, Enterprise, the engineering is empty. But she's like, no, I'm here. I'm here. But actually, that clip of the woman looking, that was from where No Man Has Gone before. They reused
they
it.
reused an asset.
They reused her.
Brilliant.
I wonder if she got paid for that reuse of a clip.
Probably not.
My 7 fun facts, and then we're done. So, fact number 1. The script included a short scene where Terrence Epstein, and Beverly Crusher are chatting in the Starbase lounge just before the evacuation of the Enterprise D, making Epstein appear on screen and establishing him as only being 26 years old. I think they filmed it, but they didn't include it. Number 2. Jonathan Frakes noted this episode was, to him, one of the highlights of the first season. And I quote, "A fabulous show. Those were the kind of chances we took first season, that when they worked great. It was a very chancy show and I loved it. Those characters, the Bynars, why haven't they returned? That was a very well conceived idea. They should have them as a regular on the ship to fix the engines or whatever the hell they do."
Well, pretty much what we
Right.
said. Pretty much what we said.
Number 3. This is one of the very few instances where a performer, an unnamed male, other than Majel Barrett Roddenberry, voices the Enterprise D computer, though her voice is heard as well. Number 4. The piano guy is named Jack Sheldon, and he is or was a voice actor on The Simpsons and Family Guy. Fun fact number 5. At the end of Act 2, when antimatter containment appears to be failing, Data is in engineering and gives 3 orders to Wesley on the bridge. 1. Tell Starbase 74 we are abandoning the ship. 2. Begin automated departure sequence. And 3. Set a course and speed. Wes listens while standing in front of the bridge aft stations. Data then orders the crew to abandon ship. The camera cuts to Wes, who has not moved from his position on the bridge. The inference is that he has not carried out Data's 3 orders, but he does leave the bridge to abandon ship. At the beginning of Act 3, Data and LaForge are on the bridge, entering commands into the ops and comm stations, respectively. The inference here is that they are carrying out Data's original orders to Wes, thus negating Data's purpose for having issued them. Oh man, can you imagine? You tell Wes to do something off camera, he doesn't do it, and then off camera, Data starts slapping Wesley. I told you, I had to go to the bridge myself with Geordi, a blind guy, by the way, by playing to his disability. I had to go there with a blind guy. We had to do it ourselves. And you are supposed to be a super genius. Just wait till I tell your mom.
Just standing there doing nothing. You go up, like, what the hell are you doing?
Number 6, the voice tracks of the actors playing the Bynars were shifted down in pitch. Initially, conversations between them in their own language were to have been subtitled with 1s and 0s or English. I don't know.
I'd like to put it in 1s and 0s.
That's what she said. Number 7, the Bynars make reference to the probe, air quotes, the probe, which had caused the problems in the holodeck Picard mentions in the captain's log, referring to the Jardin probe that disrupted the holodeck in The Big Goodbye. So this episode is supposed to have been related to the malfunctions in The Big Goodbye, and that's why they were fixing it. A little bit of continuity there for our season 1 of TNG. Okay.
That is good.
Yeah. Overall, I think we're going to repeat ourselves at the beginning. I really like this episode. Could have done with an extra, revision of the script. I'd watch this again.
Yeah, it's one that I enjoyed more than others, definitely. Especially the holodeck stuff. The Bynars were pretty cool, and the visuals at the beginning, very good with the ship and the station.
Some shit porn.
Yeah, really good. It's just let down a little bit with the end, to me. That's it. The only thing.
The best part about this episode is that I could watch this ironically and unironically. That's why it's a better episode.
Well, yeah, because it has got the funny moments in it, like the holodeck and the way the interactions are going there and stuff like that. It is quite comical.
But also thought-provoking. We've had a really good discussion about AI and what is to be real.
Exactly. There's a lot of stuff that's relevant now.
And just so the viewers know, this is the kind of conversation you should expect when we get into the really good TNG. Okay? This is just a little appetizer, an aperitif. When the script's good, then and it's thought-provoking, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
If Adam's got time, of course.
If I've got time.
Okay, that's our wrap-up, unless you've got anything else to say.
I mean, are you giving it a rank or are you giving it
Later.
a rating?
Save that for the...
Later? Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll stay in it.
But I think people know.
They know.
Okay.
They know. They can get.
If you're still here, thank you for watching. Don't forget the podcast I've re-uploaded, Star Trek Reverie, and the links are in the show notes. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you. Well, no, sorry. I keep saying that because other YouTubers say that. You will see us in another video, not the other way around.
You will see us if you want to see us.
Yeah, but they say...
And we won't see you.
Yeah, but they normally say, I'll see you in another video, and it's like, but you don't though. Stop lying to me, Marquez Brownlee.